4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Thank you so much for being here and welcome. My name is Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. Today, we're talking about what issues are at stake, like what's really at stake in the elections of 2024. What's at stake for immigration law? What's the worst that could happen? What are we really looking at when it comes to what could happen in the election later this year? All right. So welcome. Thank you all so much for being here, whether you are on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. Welcome. Thank you all so much. Remember, the Empowered Immigrant Live is here to train, teach, inspire, and empower immigrants to make the most out of immigration laws and to make the most out of their lives. So today our theme is what issues are at stake in the elections of 2024. What immigration law issues are in the balance and could be drastically affected and will be drastically affected by the outcome of this year's election. Okay? And as always, hey, if you want to get a green card, if you want to at least apply for a green card or apply for an immigration benefit, a visa, some kind of, at least know what your options are, see what kind of strategy would best suit you in your situation, I highly recommend you go for it. I'd love to help you with that. My firm is on a mission to win 10,000 immigration cases in the next 10 years. We would love for your case to be one of them. All right? And so yeah, to do that, give our office a call. We'd love to help you. Okay? So I like to start my Empowered Immigrant Live with a brief empowerment tip. Today my tip is to think bigger. All right? Think bigger. What do you think is possible for yourself, for your life, for the future? Say, for you to accomplish this year, or in the next 5 years, or in the next 10 years? What would it look like if you took on something bigger? Sometimes my clients are just like, lawyer, please, can I just get immigration status? All right? And yes, that is a mountain to climb. And yes, it is worth climbing. All right? But my question is often, and then what? Some people want to win immigration status so they could open a business, for example. Well, guess what? You might be able to open a business right now. Some people want to win immigration status so they could study or follow the career of their choice. Well, guess what? Depending on your state, all right, and often, you might be able to study that career path right now. All right? Sometimes winning that immigration status is a good first step towards creating the life you really want. But if you think bigger, what would the full picture look like? And if immigration status isn't possible yet, or isn't possible now, or will depend on, some future event, a marriage or a child turning 21, or some future thing that we can't do right now, hey, what other aspects of your life can you start making improvements on now to get your life to where you want it to be? All right? That's my empowerment tip for today. Go for it. I hope that's helpful. I hope that's useful. Now I want to get into the topic today, and the topic is what is at stake, really. What's at stake in this year's election? Trump versus Biden. 2024 presidential elections, all right? It's all looking like it's going to be Trump versus Biden again. And there are huge consequences to, the conclusion, which I think everybody's clear on, is for immigrants and for immigration law. Biden is better. Trump is much, 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 much worse. Okay? But Biden is still not, not where, it's not the country that I believe in, right? It's not a country that values people, that welcomes people, that views immigrants as an enormous contribution to society and that wants more of them. That's the country I believe in. All right? So, I believe that our country is a country of immigrants. I believe that, hey, this is a free country. People should be free to live and work and be who they are, where they are. Radical ideas. Except not really. Okay? So what's really at stake this year? First of all, I like to point out, I like to say, is there actually going to be changes, like actual changes to immigration laws, actual amendments to the Immigration Nationality Act? Well, that is possible, but that's not what the president is about, all right? To change the law requires Congress to act. So you might say, why is immigration law so bad? Well, talk to your congressperson, all right? It's Congress that has the power to change the law. And of course, I know, Congress is very divided, all right? Congress in the U.S., 2 senators from every state throughout the country, there is no agreement, and they've got to have agreement to change federal laws, all right? So in my opinion, this election is not going to cause an actual change to the immigration code, to the Immigration Nationality Act, all right? Unless there's a serious change in the makeup of our federal Congress, which I would love, okay? But as we saw with the first presidential administration under Trump, even without Congress, even without a change to the quote-unquote law, to the Immigration Nationality Act, there are still a lot of programs, regulations, executive orders, interpretations that, mark my word, they will change, and they are at stake, and that is what I want to talk about today. Okay? And yes, we all know that the law needs to change to provide better stability and better protection and to be stronger so that these ebbs and flows of presidents can't affect it as much. All right? But that, again, is up to Congress to do that. So in Trump's first presidency, according to the Migration Policy Institute, his first administration made 472 changes to immigration processes, to immigration regulations, to the immigration service. Okay? Lots. That's a lot. All right? That's a lot of very, very anti-immigrant changes that happened. And Biden has tried to undo and has undone many of those things, but that's where we're at. Okay? So in practice, there are a lot of changes that can be made. So now, what are the biggest issues that are at stake, in my opinion? Well, in my opinion, there are 6, all right? And there's, you might have a different list out there, but in my opinion, regarding immigration law, we're talking 6 really big issues that, in my opinion, are at stake in this year's election. Number 1 is the border, okay? Trump ran and is running on a campaign to deport millions of people, to construct the wall between the U.S. and Mexico, to reduce legal immigration into the U.S., to reduce both legal and irregular immigration into the U.S. But his administration also created the Remain in Mexico program for asylum. all right? And Biden has been struggling with the border, like the process and the news, etc., at the border. It's not an easy situation to navigate politically, all right? And the Biden administration has created humanitarian parole processes, the CBP-1 app, right? Looking for ways for better border processing. Those things would very likely end if Trump were to win the election. And so, like, what's going to happen at the border? That's big issue number one. And so that's, I just wanted to say that. Big issue number two, going through them, is asylum. All right, if you're fighting for asylum, if you're here in the United States, if you know somebody who's afraid for their life to return to their home country, they seek legal protection, legal asylum. You know, the Trump administration made filing for asylum way more difficult than ever in the past. All right? And Biden has attempted to recommit the country to defending the rights to asylum. All right? Sort of. Yet some of the proposals have been to deny asylum seekers if they're crossing in without using the CBP-1 app, for example, which, in my opinion, you know, it's like, yeah, anyway, in my opinion, it's disappointing. It's like, on the one hand, hey, yeah, let's defend the rights for people to seek asylum, but on the other hand, let's limit those rights. For me, it's very frustrating. Okay? Still, there are enormous backlogs in the asylum system. There's no good asylum system in place. The process is very dysfunctional right now. And regardless of who wins, it's like the backlogs seem to just be getting worse. In my opinion, they'd be way worse if Trump were to win again. And as I mentioned before, he had the Remain in Mexico program in place, so people can't even. For me, that's the antithesis of asylum, right? You're not allowed in to request legal protection and then given the opportunity to be heard, and then, you know, and so it's like you're stuck out, right, until you're heard, and only after being heard can come in. Well, for me, that's backwards, okay? Asylum laws are at stake. Number three is immigration enforcement. And by that I mean deportations. Okay? They're at stake. And this is where the question of quote-unquote prosecutorial discretion comes into play, of who is the quote-unquote government's priority to be put into immigration court or to actually be removed from the U.S. All right? For certain former presidents, it's like all people who are deportable should be subject to immigration enforcement, which for me that makes zero sense. And for anyone logical, I think it makes zero sense. There's not enough funding from Congress to make that practical. Okay? And everybody knows it. But it's like the rhetoric from certain former politicians, from certain former presidents, suggest, hey, let's just deport everybody. Well, let's not. Okay? Let's not. People are valuable. In my opinion, people are awesome. I'm a humanist. All right? And that's why I'm here to fight for people. But it's frustrating to me that there are political leaders that don't view things like that. All right? So immigration enforcement is at stake. All the people that are out there that are facing deportation in any way, like, that's going to matter. Big time. It's going to make a huge difference. The fourth thing at stake in this year's election is pressure from the executive branch on immigration courts. Hey, judges, you've got to make this many decisions. Hey, judges, you've got to essentially deport this many people. Right? Per judge, per courtroom, per city, per whatever. It's like that's not justice, you guys. That's a due process problem. It's not good. And it was real under the prior administration. And it is at stake in this year's election. Number 5 is the use of EVerify. You're aware of EVerify? It's the running of all employment authorization documents through a federal database to make sure that everyone has valid documentation in place to be able to work. Adds an extra step, makes it harder for people to work. All right? And I think that that's a problem for people, yes, but it's also a problem for the economy. And it's like we want people to be able to work, to be able to provide for their families, for their loved ones. Those people pay taxes by very nature of being in work. It's like it's important for the economy, and that is at stake. We want people to be able to find jobs. All right? And the last and final thing that I believe is at stake in this year's election are travel rights and travel bans. All right? You remember under the Trump administration, like day one of the presidency, at least the first week of the presidency, he passed the Muslim travel ban, quote unquote, Muslim travel ban, various other travel bans. And Biden, when he took office, removed those travel bans. And so it's like, okay, travel is at stake. All right? And there's always a question of, who has rights to travel. Anyway, yeah. So that's at stake. That's at stake. I want people to be able to travel. It's like the freedom of movement. Like, if you're, like, why is it that I, as a college kid, was able to travel to 26 different countries around the earth? And it's like it wasn't a big deal at all. And I didn't have any money. I didn't have anything to my name. I traveled, I studied, I worked in various different countries without any consequence, right? Legally. Visas weren't denied. And yet so many people get denied entry to the U.S. without reason, all right? Like illogical. For me, it's a mistake. So there you go. So what's the conclusion of all of this? All right? First of all, if you're a U.S. citizen, or if you know people who are voting in this year's election, each vote matters. They matter to immigrants. They matter to human beings. All right? Next year's election is going to be very, very divisive. But it's like, man, if you care about immigrants, if you value travel and immigration and people and the right to work and the right to live and the right to be free, then, anyway, I'm just sharing my own opinion. All right? Biden is better, clearly. Trump is like way, 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 way worse. And that's just the reality. All right? And my best advice is if you're eligible for an immigration benefit, a visa, a green card, asylum, it's like there's no better time than the present. Do it now, get a consultation, explore your options, see what you can do, get your status taken care of. If you're a green card holder thinking of applying for citizenship, do it. All right? Get your status taken care of so you don't have to worry about your immigration situation or immigration issues anymore. Got it? That's my spiel for today. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you for being here. I did receive a question. Arij, thank you for your question. You say, dear sir, allow me to share my case with you. I have an I-130 from my brother, applied on June 2016. We received the I-797C notice of action. It's still not approved, but we recently were allowed to send an inquiry because our case is outside of normal processing times. Does this indicate anything? Is there a chance that our case will be accelerated? Should we do anything after new processing times? We're in the California office. How long do you think it'll take? Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Arij. And to really have specific information, feel free to give us a call. We could look at it in much more detail. But sibling petitions, brother, U.S. citizen brother petitioning for another brother, that's the slowest of all immigration categories. And there are backlogs that are enormous, all right, depending on country. Sometimes these are 20-year processes, okay? And so just because, like, the petitions approval is just step one. Step two is you got to look at the wait list, okay? And so the wait list is published. Remember, these are visa bulletin cases. So you've got to look in the visa bulletin. And right now I'm looking at it, right now in the month of January, the State Department is approving cases that were submitted in 2007 or earlier for most of the countries from the world, right? But if it's a case from India, it's 2005 or earlier. If it's a case from Mexico, it's the year 2000, September 15th of 2000 or earlier. And if it's from the Philippines, it's the 15th of October of 2002 or earlier. All right, that's the visa bulletin right now. I'm staring right at it. And so the truth, Arij, is that, yes, you've got to get your I-130 approval notice, but even after it's approved, there's not going to be anything to do for years and years and years and years and years. And once it's approved, and once the visa bulletin is current and ready to go, only then can you start the next steps through that petition. All right? I hope that's helpful for you. I see another question here on Instagram. Thank you. Yacerto, hello. You say, hey, if I'm not pleased with my current lawyer, is there a way we could switch without losing money? Well, okay, thank you for asking that. Here's the thing. Start with a consultation. Get a second opinion on the case. Some people are not happy with their current lawyer, and after you get a second opinion, it's like, actually, your current lawyer's doing it correctly. Maybe they're not the best communicator or whatever, but maybe they're doing it correctly. Other times, I do this all the time. I'm reviewing 3 applications for people, giving them second opinions today, okay? And so it's like, okay, so sometimes it's like we review the work of the attorney. It's like, oh my gosh, they really did mess up. They should have done this differently, or they should have done that differently, or they could have tried this instead, or they should have explained it this way. And so that's a different situation. And in some instances, you're able to go back to your attorney and say, hey, look, there were these mistakes. Am I eligible for at least some partial refund? And sometimes you could do that, okay? So, but anyway, I hope that that's useful. Hope that that's helpful. I also see another question here on Instagram, and then we'll get going because I want to do this episode in Spanish. So, Di, I see your question here. You say, Dear Otis, I hope everything's going well there. I have a question. Do you take U visa cases from other states? Oh, man, Di, thank you so much for asking that question. Yes, yes, yes. All right? My firm handles cases nationally and internationally. We have clients that are outside the United States. We have clients that are in other states throughout the United States. And we certainly have fought U visas in various states. We do a lot of things remote. Our office is paperless, so we can do things. We can do things even for people from other jurisdictions, from other states. Absolutely. Okay, and we'd love to. If we can help you, hey, please give us a call. And let's talk that through. All right, you guys, thank you all so much. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. My name is Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration A.P.C., where we fight for your American dream. If this video was useful, please subscribe to our channel in YouTube. And when you do, please click the notifications bell. All right? And Yacerto, thank you. I see you there. Awesome. And Di, thank you for asking your question. All right? And Arij, thank you for asking your question as well. I really appreciate it. And lastly, if you have an immigration case, all right, if you, let's see, oh, I just see another question coming in here. Lucky, thank you. You have a DUI from 2021, you've got a green card holder, you traveled with no problem, all right? But when Trump comes back, will there be a problem if I travel with a DUI? I'm from New York. Good question, Lucky, good question. DUIs, if it's one single DUI, if you've covered all the court costs and stuff like that, typically it doesn't put your green card at risk, all right? Sometimes it makes it a challenge to get the green card originally, but when you've got a green card already, typically it doesn't put your green card at risk, okay? So, but the question will become, when can you file for citizenship? And that depends on how long you've had your green card. It depends on your situation. I would love to help you apply to become a U.S. citizen if you want that. And so to do that, hey, reach out. We'd love to look at your case and talk about that for you, okay? All right, you guys, thank you all so much. All right, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. My name's Otis Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C., where we fight for your American dream, and I'll see you on our next episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.